Hello everyone, and welcome back to the layout. Today we're going to be taking a look at two different Dash 9 locomotives here. These are both obviously Southern Pacific units, and one is an Athearn Genesis and the other is a ScaleTrains. And basically I kind of came across a deal and managed to get both of these basically for half price. So they both have DCC and Sound, and I was just kind of curious who did it a little bit better. I'm not really an expert in Dash 9s by any stretch, or the Southern Pacific. I'm just a guy that, saw two Southern Pacific locomotives and thought they looked cool and said that was a deal I couldn't pass up. So today we're going to kind of take a look at these, kind of look at the ins and outs of them and kind of check everything out and see which one looks better. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with our unboxing here. We're going to start off with our Athearn model here. And these Genesis models, they come sometimes with this plastic or this cardboard outer box deal. And then of course you have your standard issue big box here on the inside. Of course have our little warranty card deal, the they're not liable thing, and one of the more cool things here, of course, is our exploded parts diagram. That's always kind of neat to have and handy for if you should lose something. And our actual operator's manual here as well, with all the, how to hold it and maintenance and the lubrication, of course. Some stuff about DC and Sound. Oh, function map. I'm going to need that. Put that off to the side. And got this little thin piece of foam here. And then we get to the meat and potatoes, as you'd say here. We got anything extra in here? Oh yeah, what do we got in here? Looks like we got some little bearing cap deals here, so always good to have a few extra of those around. And you got your typical everybody's doing it anymore clamshell deal here with the styrofoam on the top and the bottom. And looks like Athearn went with a generous piece of the plastic here. I kind of like how that wraps around there. That's kind of nice. I'm used to having that just piece across the top. That's always a pain in the rear end to get in and out of there. And see if we can move. So get our model out of there. Got the little truck holder clips, and looks like there's some lube down in here that leaked out of the truck. So I'm going to wipe that up here before I put the box away here. But there you guys can see you got the little foam handrail deals and all that. So this one's out of the box. Let's go ahead and get our ScaleTrains one out of the box. All right, now time again to unbox our ScaleTrains model here now. And you can see a similar kind of whole deal as with the Athearn ScaleTrains. Has this giant operator's manual book deal here that It's kind of nice instead of having all the extra paperwork and stuff that Athearn gives, not to knock on them, but that always drives me nuts. A little bit thicker foam here too. But here we are. As you guys can tell, there's nothing extra in the box there either. So ScaleTrains puts their little bearing cap deals up here in this top part. I'm gonna go ahead and again, another one of these plastic deals here to hold the model in place. And ooh, I don't know if you guys can see that there, but the little plastic thing I always fight with, it's actually staying in there. I don't know how they did that. Some kind of magic deal. I like that though. Now, one thing to remember with these ScaleTrains models is a lot of time when you go to pull them out of the box, they have these little guys here that keep the trucks immobilized. And you want to make sure you pull those off before you go to set it down so you don't hit it on anything. But all right, we're out of the box. Looks like I got a little spot there. Must have got something on. A little bit of that lubrication that's on everything here. I might have got a little bit off my finger on there. But I'm going to go ahead and get this box all set away, and then we'll start taking a look at these. All right, so let's go ahead and let's dive into taking a look at these units here. I'm going to go ahead and what I'm going to try to do is try to get side-by-side shots of everything so we could literally just compare between the two models and kind of look at everything as a whole. Right now we got the Athearn unit over here on our left side, and our ScaleTrains unit here is on the right side. And I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up here. The first thing I noticed as far as a difference goes between the two is if you kind of look at how the plows are shaped, you'd see on the Athearn unit it has a little bit more of a defined cut edge, whereas the ScaleTrains is more of a straight shot up. When I looked at prototype photos, the Athearn one looks a lot more correct than the ScaleTrains one, so point to Athearn on that there. Now, of course, we move up here, you can see all of our MU hoses. The Athearn ones are a hair thicker than the ScaleTrains ones. The ScaleTrains ones are a little bit more thin. For couplers, we have a plastic McHenry coupler on the Athearn model. And, of course, our metal ScaleTrains coupler, their proprietary deal they do there. Personally, I like the ScaleTrains metal couplers better, but at the end of the day, KDs are kind of the best, so it's kind of irrelevant when it's all said and done there. We get to our MU codes here. The Athearn one has a darker yellow than the ScaleTrains. The ScaleTrains one does have a little bit of a lighter yellow. Both of these look lighter in the camera right now than what they actually are in person. This is more like a golden yellow, and then this is more like a highlighter yellow. But either one, those both look pretty good. I don't have any issues there. Looking at our ditch lights, both of them you could actually see in there have the LEDs mounted up inside the ditch lights, so those look good right there from the front. Handrails look pretty sharp on both of them, about the same thickness. Stanchions all look good. Looks like the connection to the sill looks a little more crisp on the ScaleTrains one. This Athearn one has this little, I think that's glue probably right there up along the edge, but either way, they both look pretty comparable and good there. Now, when it comes to on the front of our cabs here, you can see there's this little molded door here on each side. On the ScaleTrains unit, it's a lot less visible than the Athearn one. The Athearn one has a much more pronounced edge to it, so that might be a little bit thicker paint on the ScaleTrains unit. We'll see. But on the ScaleTrains unit, as you can see, we have this little handle deal here that is not there on the Athearn one. So no little thingy kebab there on the Athearn model, so not sure what it's all about, what's that deal's all about there. But as far as the color goes of the red, I'll also note here that the ScaleTrains does have a little bit darker red, and the Athearn's a little bit of a brighter red. It's about what it looks like in the camera. You guys probably barely pick that up, but this is a little bit more of a bloody darker color, and this is more of a lighter tone to it. All of our little grab irons up here on the top are pretty comparable, nothing too fancy there. The sand fill hatches look about the same. When we get up here to our cab windows, as you can see, both of these have a cab interior that's pretty much the same looking, at least from the front here. Both have their windshield wipers, which also look good. Now this grab iron, I don't know what the deal is with the ScaleTrains one being red. I could have swore I saw it in a prototype photo, but I can't find it now. The Athearn one has a gray one, which is more matching of what I've seen in a lot of them. And of course they both have the lit number boards. They both have walkway lights that light up as well. As far as the gray goes, the ScaleTrains has a little bit darker gray, and the Athearn has a little bit of a brighter gray. So let me go ahead and get these side by side so we can kind of start to work our way down the side of these locomotives. All right, so now turning these locomotives to the side here, we could kind of start to take another look at them here. The truck and underframe detail is pretty comparable between the two of them. Both have a little red speed recorder, the little spare knuckle there. Pretty standard issue there. Looks to me like pretty much the molds are about the same. Maybe the Athearn one has a little bit thicker mold lines to it, but that's kind of debatable. They're pretty equal, pretty even. There's a slight difference here in our AC units between the two. I don't know what the deal is with that because I'm not an expert in these, but they both look good, so I'm not really going to fret on that all too much. Both have tinted cab side windows as well, sunshades, and the little wind deflector deals. Both also have these great metal deals here. They look pretty good going in there. As you can see, our ScaleTrains one has like a little bit of a rusted metal tone, and the Athearn one has just a silver tone to it. So overall, pretty similar. Again, not really much to report as far as differences when you look at these direct from the side. The one thing I did kind of notice, and it's going to be kind of hard to tell here in the camera, but it might just be me looking at it funny, but the road number on the ScaleTrains unit seems to be about the right size, and on the Athearn unit it seems slightly oversized, at least compared to the prototype photos I found. It just looks a little bit too big. It could just be me. You guys tell me down below, you guys that are SP experts. It looked a little big on the Athearn one, but that was pretty much the main things I noticed there. Let's go ahead and shift these down and take a look at these, the back end of these here. All right, so getting down here to the back end here, we can see again, really both of these look really nice. Again, our ScaleTrains unit in the front, our Athearn in the back. The little grill detail is really nice. On our ScaleTrains unit, it is see-through. It's kind of hard to see through the bottom part there, but it's all see-through. The Athearn one, I believe, is as well, but there's a speaker in there, so you can't see all the way through, unfortunately. Another thing I noticed here is on our ScaleTrains unit, we have these little warning labels here up at the top. Our Athearn unit does not have those. Mainly, I think, because these warning decals were pretty much an as-delivered, and shortly after they either got taken off or covered in soot, because the photos I found, I couldn't find them except for right after they got delivered. I also kind of noticed a little bit that some of the little decals, like here by the handbrake, are a little bit smaller on the ScaleTrains model than the Athearn one. The Athearn ones are slightly bigger, a little more oversized, but overall they're both pretty good. I wouldn't really fret on that too much with the Athearn. I still think it looks pretty sharp. ScaleTrains has our little plastic molded on brake chain here that is very, very fine looking and looks really great. On our Athearn one here, we got this one that's actual chain that's on here, which I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of neat because it's a real chain and it's actually on there, and it looks pretty good. But comparing it with our ScaleTrains one, it does look rather oversized in comparison. But overall, I would take either one of them in that department. Both of these look great here in the back end. Let's take a straight-on look at the back, and then we'll check out the top of these. All right, so here we are at the back end. And again, we have our ScaleTrains here on the left now, and our Athearn here on the right. Really, the only major differences here are, again, our McHenry plastic coupler for Athearn, our ScaleTrains metal coupler here. Again, the ScaleTrains MU hoses are slightly thinner. I also noticed here that this is another one of the points. So this 8192 here on the Athearn looks very oversized compared to the photo, and the ScaleTrains one almost looks undersized. You guys tell me again. I'm not a Southern Pacific expert, so I almost feel like the right size would be somewhere in between these two, and both of them kind of made it a little bit different, but I don't know. I'm not an expert in these, so either way, neither one of them really looks bad. It's just strange how one's really big and one's really kind of small. The other thing I also noticed here is on the Athearn model, there's a seam up here near the radiator fan all the way around the edge that we don't have on the ScaleTrains unit, but otherwise look pretty good. All right, so taking a look at the top here, we have our ScaleTrains unit in the front, Athearn unit in the back. Just some subtle differences here, namely we got a little bit different arrangement up here for our antennas in the front. Also, the exhaust stack, the top looks a little bit different there. The ScaleTrains one has more of a rounded deal. The Athearn one has more of a squared out deal. And the horns are about the same. I'd say the Athearn one's a hair oversized looking compared to the ScaleTrains one. But then again, maybe the ScaleTrains one's undersized. Again, I'm not an expert in these. So either way, as far as the top, you guys can really see here from this angle, this great like anti-stick tread deal here on the hood of the ScaleTrains unit. It really looks good. It's very, very apparent on the ScaleTrains unit. The Athearn unit, I have to hold it in the right light, and then you could really see it. It's just very hard to make out. It's not nearly as apparent as on the ScaleTrains unit. When I first got these, I didn't think the Athearn one even had that. So kind of, wish that would have been a little bit more pronounced, but what are you going to do? So what I'm going to do here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at our radiator sections here. And again, you guys kind of see the difference here with our Athearn exhaust stack here. Again, it's just a little more of a harsh edge there, whereas the ScaleTrains one is more rounded. I'm not sure which one's more appropriate, but I think they both look pretty sharp. And then these radiator fans back here, these also look pretty interesting here, because you have the ScaleTrains one has a much finer grill grading to it versus the Athearn is a little bit thicker. But both of these really look excellent in that department. I think these really look great. All right, so we got our good old NMRA standards gauge here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start off by checking our wheel gauge here on our Athearn unit and just see what we got going on here. That wheel looks like that's pretty close. Pretty close there. It's right on the money there. And when I unboxed these, I mentioned all that lube on the bottom. I did try to wipe as much of that off as I could, so I wasn't getting that lube oil stuff everywhere. But, all right, all our wheels are engaged on our Athearn model. And now for our ScaleTrains model here. Let's see what we got. Looking good so far here. Everything's good on the ScaleTrains one as well. All right, let's go ahead and check in our weight on these units, starting off with the Athearn model here. Got 21.50 ounces for the Athearn. And for our ScaleTrains unit, 22.35. So very, very close there. Pretty comparable weight-wise. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick look at coupler height here. We have our Athearn unit coming up here first, and that looks pretty right on the money. Hopefully it looks good on there too. Let's go ahead and check out the rear end of this as well. And on the rear end, we're also right where we want to be. So our Athearn has good coupler height, even though it has plastic couplers. All right, and now for our ScaleTrains unit here, we're gonna go ahead and get on there. Now, on the ScaleTrains unit, it looks just a tad low. It's probably gonna be kind of hard to see that on my camera there. It could just be that the coupler itself is a little bit more narrow, so it's a little more scale size, but it might just be a hair low. Not anything that would really cause any major issues, just a little bit. Now on the rear end here, we're definitely low on the rear. That shit show up there, you guys can see. It's definitely low on the rear, so that's a bit of a bummer. All right, so now we're going to take a little bit of a look at how these operate, how they sound, all the lighting stuff, all the cool stuff here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start off with just a back and forth here with each locomotive with the sound off, just to see what kind of motor and drive noise there is, if there is any, and see how loud they are. So let's go ahead and let's start off with our Athearn model here. All right, so our Athearn model sounded pretty good there. Pretty quiet, a little bit of a motor noise, but not a lot. Maybe that could have been the gear train. Not totally sure. Let's hear our ScaleTrains unit come on through here. Yeah, also very quiet. The ScaleTrains unit has more like a quiet hum to it. I don't know how well that's going to turn up on the camera here, but it's definitely a little bit quieter than the Athearn model. I'd also like to note that the ScaleTrains locomotive I did put on the programmer and turn off the acceleration here for the purposes of these tests. All right, so I was going to do a pull test with these because I was asked about doing that in some previous videos, and you know, I got this fancy pull gauge here. Unfortunately, that big guy there isn't going to fit in a coupler, so I kind of did a dum-dum there when I bought that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go on to something else I was asked about here, which would be a speed test here between the two units. So we're going to start off with our Athearn model, and we're just going to put it on like speed step 1 and see what that reads out here, because I'm kind of curious what the differences between these two would be right out of the box, how they're programmed. Both of them have been just programmed to the road number, but have not had any of the speed settings messed with other than making sure the acceleration's turned off on both. So 1.1 miles per hour here for our Athearn unit. Now let's see what our ScaleTrains unit has here on speed step 1. Oh, got nothing. If we go to 2, we start to move a little bit here. Very, very slow though. I'm going to bump it up to a couple here just to get her going. Bump it up to 5 and see what that gives us here, because now it's actually moving a little bit smooth. All right, 1.8, and that's on speed step number 5 here. We'll go ahead and we'll pull that out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring our Athearn unit back now. And we're going to see what it will give us on speed step 5 as well here. Just for comparison's sake. .4, so our Athearn unit's really winding up to be quite a bit faster than our ScaleTrains unit here on the lower end. All right, now for the fun of it, we're just going to crank it to the moon here and see what we get with our Athearn unit. 73 out of the Athearn unit cranked all the way out. And now our ScaleTrains unit, let's see what we get there. 69 out of the ScaleTrains unit. All right, now we're going to take a quick look at our lighting here on these two units. Both of these have LED lighting in them, pretty standard issue at this point. The Athearn unit is on the right, the ScaleTrains unit is on the left. Starting off with our headlights here, They both appear to be about the same level of brightness. I'd say the ScaleTrains one's maybe a hair brighter. On the camera, they look about the same, and they are pretty close. The Athearn one has more of like a yellowish golden hue to it, and the ScaleTrains one has more of a whiter, bright, light hue to it. I'm going to go ahead and flip on our ditch lights here on our ScaleTrains unit, if I could find the right button. There's our ditch lights on the ScaleTrains unit, and on our Athearn unit. Go ahead and flip those on as well. And again, about the same here as far as lighting and colors. I'd say on the ScaleTrains ones, the headlights a little bit lighter colored than the ditch lights, whereas the Athearn, they're a little bit more even and equal. Both seem to have about the same there. Now for our number boards, I have to actually power up the ScaleTrains unit there. Alright, so unfortunately here, I don't know what, who in the heck did this here with these. I can't get the dang number boards to come on the Athearn model here with our Tsunami, because I'm looking at my old function map here, and I tried 5 and 6, and 6 I believe is the ditch lights, or 5 is. I tried both of them is the principle of it, and neither one of them bring those on. And the only other lighting functions are over here in F24 and 25, and well, you know, this here only goes up to 12, so I'm kind of in a bit of a spot there. We're not going to be able to look at the number board lights on this Athearn unit, unfortunately. Alright, well, we already kind of heard the ScaleTrains unit start up. We're going to go ahead and fire it up again here, and we'll just hear this unit run. We'll get a little horn and bell action, and then run it back and forth a little bit to hear it notch up. Alright, so that was our ScaleTrains unit. Let's go ahead and see what this Athearn unit's got now with the Tsunami sound here. Alright, so now I'm going to do a little bit of an odd test I've never seen, but I just, you know, it's kind of really hard to tell the difference between these two units and the sound with them moving around. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to crank these up and hold them in place, and just kind of we can hear what it sounds like a little bit better that way. So we'll start off with our ScaleTrains unit again. Alright, so there was the ScaleTrains unit. It's got a pretty loud sound to it, and it's very throaty sounding as well. Let's see what the Athearn unit's got here. All right, I don't know how well that's coming across in there, but how that's going to sound on the camera, but it doesn't even sound like the tsunami's notching up at all. Like, it just does not sound like it's notching in any way, shape, or form compared to the ESU and the ScaleTrains unit. That's pretty disappointing to me. I was hoping that the tsunami would maybe be a little bit better. I haven't used tsunami in a long time, and well, I'm really not impressed. You guys tell me on there, the horn's insanely loud, but the actual locomotive running isn't loud at all and doesn't really have much to it. It's very dull and bland sounding, I guess would be the way I would put that. So a few other notes here. Our ScaleTrains unit has a keep alive. Our Athearn unit does not have a keep alive. So that's another kind of slight downfall on the Athearn unit. If you want to have a keep alive, you have to add your own, which kind of stinks. Again, both of these have like little lights up in the front here for the walkways, and I believe they both have ground lighting as well. It's just kind of hard to get a good angle on that to show it. I still can't figure out how in the world to get the number boards to come on the Athearn unit. I don't know why, but I don't know. I don't know why they do that, but either way, I'm gonna go ahead and get a shot of each of these pulling a train around, and then I'll see how long they'll run together before they derail, and I'll take them over to the workbench, and we'll see what the inside looks like and see what these really differ at. All right, so now that we've taken a look at these locomotives, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a part that I find to be kind of important. I always am curious with these, what's the inside of them looks like, how hard is it to get the shell off, etc. And as part of my comparison videos, I like to kind of just go ahead and do that, because I don't know about some of you guys, I always, it kind of can be a bit of a decision maker depending on the model, is how difficult is it to work on. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull our coupler boxes out here first. This is the Athearn model to get this all taken apart here. Sometimes these boxes like to kind of stick in there a bit. So we'll get these pulled out on the front and the rear, and then usually on Athearns there's also generally two screws that also are holding the shell to the frame that we're going to have to find, that Athearn likes to kind of hide partway under the trucks and right where they're not that easy to get out, unfortunately, but we'll fish them out of there and get those going as well. Hopefully we won't have to take off the fuel tank. Let's see here. We are going to have to take off the fuel tank because there's one. I don't know how well it's going to show up there. There's one down there. And there's one right back here in the truck. You have to kind of fish around a little bit there to get out. So we will go ahead and get this fuel tank off. Should pop right there. It goes. And with these, you always got to be careful because all these little detail parts on the top are kind of easy to break off. So you want to use a little caution there when you're pulling that tank off. You want to try and lift it by the sides in places where there isn't things you can hit and break. Let's see if we can get this one to come out. It's going to sit in there. And then the other one up here in the front. Let's See if I get that rear one to drop out of there. There it goes. All right, now in theory, our shell should lift right off, and looks like it's going to here. Oh, very nice. All right, so kind of taking a look here at the inner workings of our shell. Let me see if I get the light over here a little better for you guys to see. All the lighting here on this shell is LEDs all mounted in position, and they seem to use a little contact pad board, which it's pretty decent. That's not a bad deal. You also can now see as well, if I can get it to show up here, right, the radiator fans. That is all see-through back there, but with the way the chassis is, it's not very easy to actually see, unfortunately. But either way, it looks like the only place where our lights are piped in is back here in this rear headlight area. And of course, we get down here and we have our Tsunami 2 board and our Sugar Cube speakers. Kind of liking those speakers. That's, you know, a good deal. I won't have to mess with those. Not sure how I feel about this having an actual Tsunami board. I was kind of hoping it would have the 21-pin decoder in it, but what are you going to do? My big issue here will be if I wanted to swap this out to ESU or add a Keep Alive or whatever here, how well any of that will fit in here, because it's a very tight area. I don't know if a Keep Alive would fit back here, or if we'd not have enough room. It might be too low because of how the shell is. I don't see anywhere else I could really stuff one in at, so that's a little bit of a drawback to the way the Athearn model's laid out. Is it's going to be kind of difficult to add a Keep Alive to this, because there just isn't really a good spot. I mean, this right here looks like it would be good, but my gut's just telling me that there's not going to be enough room here in this short hood area to do so. It also looks like our headlights also got the LED mounted right behind it, so that's pretty decent. But we go ahead and get the shell back on this, and then we'll take apart our ScaleTrains one and kind of see the differences between the two and how they're put together. All right, so our Athearn model's put away now. Now we're going to get to our ScaleTrains one here, and this should, in theory, be easier than the Athearn provided ScaleTrains. Just did their usual deal here, where the only thing that's securing the body is the couplers. So I'm hoping they just stuck with what they always do, because that's going to make this a lot easier. I always like to put my screws back in the coupler pockets here. That way I don't have to worry about bumping them and having them fly away into the land of the carpet. So we're going to go ahead and get those out. We're going to see now. Well, that's promising. Looks like it's going to come right off of there. Like so. Alright, so here on our ScaleTrains model, ScaleTrains seems to have went a little bit different route here as far as the number of contact pads for all the lighting, etc. here. They only put ditch lights actually mounted in the front, the actual LEDs with contact pads, as we can see up here in the front. Other than that, everything else is mounted to the motor and drive here, such as your headlight, your number boards, your rear light, all that fun stuff. Looks like this. Does this have ground lights? I thought this might have had ground lights, but it doesn't look like it does. Huh, interesting. But it does have the side step lights and everything in there as well. Pretty standard issue. Got your see-through grills, which we already kind of saw in the demo deal earlier. As far as the frame and chassis and all that fun stuff here, we got our Loc Sound 5 decoder on the 21-pin ScaleTrains board with the factory built-in Keep Alive, which if any of you are ever wondering, the actual capacitors are actually located right here inside this big frame weight deal. They are mounted to the bottom of this board and they actually sit down in there, which is kind of cool because that's why you can't see any of that. But overall, like, everything's pretty neat in here. One thing I really enjoy about these ScaleTrains boards is every single board and every rivet counter locomotive is the same. So essentially, once you figure out what's a function output, etc., and you want to add extra lights, you can use that on any locomotive depending on what it came from with the factory deal. So I believe the speakers on these are hidden. Oh, there we go. Let me see if I get in there and show you guys. The speakers are mounted right up in there. And of course we have the like back factory weight deal with the little thing on the bottom. So it looks like the real deal. But overall, pretty cool, pretty standard. I will say, if any of you ever have to change a motor or do any work on these, they can be a bit cumbersome in the fact that to get the motor out or to get into the drivetrains, you got to start undoing all this wiring that's really neatly put in there and remove this big top weight piece. It's all essentially a one-piece weight. So a bit of a hassle if you have to get in there, but in all the ScaleTrains locomotives I've had, I've never had to actually get in there and do that. The only time I ever went into one of these was to add sound to it. So that's about going to be a wrap here for the ScaleTrains unit. Let me go ahead and get this one back in the box, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on these and what my opinion is, at least, of these two Dash 9 locomotives.
All right, so now that we've taken a look at the insides of them, we've checked out all the details, we've had them on the railroad, it's time for our final thoughts here and give you guys my opinion on what I think of both of these while we watch me put these shells back on both of them here. So, overall, I guess if I had to look at these I'm going to kind of break this in half here and say that if I walked into a hobby shop and I looked at both of these just based on the detail work, I mean, they're so close and so similar. I would take either one of them detail wise. I think they both are really excellently put together models that, I mean, when it's all said and done, they're nearly identical. There's some very small differences between little things on them, and I can't really pick between the two just based off of those because of how similar they are and how well done they are. Um, for me, where I kind of get swayed a little bit heavier is more on the when it comes to keep alive part of it. That's a big deal to me, so I kind of lean a little bit more towards the ScaleTrains for that, as well as having the ESU Loc sound. I've always been a bit more of an ESU guy, say, namely because I prefer programming with the Loc programmer over trying to use JMRI. I've never had much luck trying to use JMRI. It always gets me frustrated and stuff, and doing that, and you have to use that with Tsunami to program them. So I just never really cared for it. And when I saw these two locomotives, this was kind of an opportunity for me to kind of check out Tsunami and give them another chance and see how they were. And it's the video doesn't really do it justice. It really did not sound good at all. It just didn't have any of that throatiness that the ESU sound had, and it was very, very disappointing to me. I was really hoping for something a lot better as far as the sound went with the Athearn. I was really hoping Tsunami would sound good in this, and it would just be a matter of adding Keep Alive and having a little variety on the railroad. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It looks like the Athearn's going to end up getting ESU at some point, and then it'll be a great model as far as I'm concerned. But I know some folks out there really like Tsunami. The whole cusp of this comparison here is, it's kind of like a Chevy versus Ford kind of deal with cars. No matter what, everybody's got their opinion one way or another, and everybody likes one over the other. And I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments section. I know a lot of folks are probably going to lean one way or they're going to lean another, and it's always interesting to just hear what everybody's got to say and think about these. So, um, as always, guys, I appreciate all you watching, all the comments, all the likes. Let me know which ones you guys got and what you think. Let me know if any of you had, different problems or experiences. It's always handy to, go ahead and if you had a problem with a certain locomotive, say it down in the comments. That way, if somebody else sees this video and starts reading through them, they could say, "Hey, they see that, so they know if they buy one, maybe they ran into this or ran into that." So, as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.